everyone. I wanted to show you just really quick how I cut the freeform geode out of this MDF. So this is actually cut in half, so this is about 24 inches. It's, I think, a 1/4 inch thick, or 1/2 inch thick, I don't remember, 1/4 inch. And I got it from Home Depot in a 2x4 foot sheet, so I cut it in half first, because then I could either make like a 12-inch one or a big one. So if you saw my big blue freeform geode, this is what I did. I cut this myself, and then I sanded the sides, spray painted it white so it would be primed, and then I went ahead and did the resin pour over it. I'm gonna use a Jigsaw. It's a Black & Decker Jigsaw. I don't know anything about jigsaws. There are other videos out on YouTube that show you blades and all of that stuff. I'm no expert. The board is clamped to this table, and as we continue to move it around, we're gonna have to adjust it and reclamp it. It's difficult to see, but I drew kind of a freeform geode as a guide with a pencil on this MDF, and the hole in the middle. It's not gonna be exact or perfect, but the last time I drew it in a Sharpie, and then it was really hard to cover up the Sharpie. So this is actually gonna be for a customer, because she wants her own freeform geode to work on. And so I just figured to use it as an opportunity to show you guys kind of the process. So after I cut this, I'm gonna poke a hole in the middle with a drill bit. There's probably better ways to do that. Like I said, I'm a girl, I'm not a tool pro. So that once we poke a hole in it, then we'll put the blade of the jigsaw in the middle and cut out. So the jigsaw, essentially, the blade goes forward, so your job is to guide it. So the biggest thing is, around these curves, you want to gently guide it. You don't want to jerk it. And you'll see when we start, it's going to vibrate the whole board. So obviously you need to use protective wear. You need to put your hair up, wear goggles, wear a mask, do all the things. It's still a saw, so be safe. Okay, so with that said, let's give it a go.
All right, so I'm speeding this up because, you know, it's boring to just watch that. But what I'm doing is coming in from this side and kind of following the curve that's closest to the edge. I sped this up, but I didn't want to speed it up too much where you can't kind of see how steady I'm holding the saw. And as we're coming out to a curve, you can kind of see that I very gently move it. Now, if you do it abruptly and you get your edge a little sharper than you want, you can always go back over it and make it a little bit smoother. Sorry about all the sawdust flying in the air. I'm going to try to remember to locate this saw and put it in my Amazon shop, just because I know if some of you guys don't have one and you're wanting to get something, it's kind of hard to pick something if you're not familiar with it. And I had no experience with purchasing them, but it works just fine. Now my hair should be up and I should be wearing gloves. I just was distracted trying to get this done. So to move the board, I'm basically just moving it a little at a time so I don't saw the table. And then once we reach a certain point, I'll turn the board. Our punching bag is moving around behind me. So just kind of slightly angling it. And then once we get it all the way cut out, we'll let that outer part kind of fall. And then we're going to poke a hole in the middle. I use a drill bit. I know that's probably not the fastest and the easiest, but that's what I use. So I'm going to poke a hole in the middle, and just enough to get the blade in the middle, and then we'll do the same to cut the little hole out in the middle. I like to save the little circle in the middle, and you know, I spray paint it white just like I would a bigger board. And then if I make, you know, like little resin crystals or that kind of stuff, little drusies, those are kind of cute to make little small geodes with. So I have one from my first board. I just haven't done it yet. But I have these little small molds that I make little geode crystals with my leftover resin sometimes. And so I have a few of them, and I thought that would be neat. Okay, so the sawdust is really flying. So my sweet stepdaughter, Kristen, was kind enough to help me film this, which I thought was super sweet of her. So thank you, Chrissy. And so I know a lot of you, after I made the first big geode, asked for this video. So I know this is not like super entertaining, but if you do want to cut your own, I found it to be pretty helpful, because I know when I wanted to do one, I was like, how the heck do you do this? And I was able to find a video, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know a jigsaw did that sort of a thing. It shows you what I know. So I was honestly pretty surprised my husband let me cut it the first time without being afraid that I would, cut myself. But I was pretty impressed with myself. Now I want to do another big one. I love doing those. They're so dramatic and pretty. Okay, so next up, this is what our shape looks like. This one turned out a little bit kind of squarish.
In order to get the blade down in this hole, we have to cut down into the wood. And so I'm going to try. I don't know if this drill bit's right to do that, but I'm going to try.
All right, so to get down into that little center section, I'm just using a thick drill bit to kind of puncture the wood. I realize there's probably better ways to do that, but what I tend to do is make 2 holes that are kind of close to each other, and then kind of file down in the center just to get a large enough space so that the saw blade will fit. And I did speed this up and decided to do this as a voiceover, just because, that's kind of boring just to watch me do that for all that time, and it's loud. So this is what I did the first time. Again, I welcome your feedback. I'm sure there's better ways to do it. I wasn't trying to figure all that out. I just wanted to poke a hole in it so that I could saw the rest. So once we get the hole big enough, we're just going to basically follow the same trajectory on the inside with the jigsaw. And if you get an edge that's not quite what you're looking for, you can kind of shave the edge with the jigsaw. So that works kind of well as well. So here I'm just kind of trying to broaden the hole around it so it can connect with the other hole. Because again, we need a little bit of a slant. So then once we finish that, we will grab the jigsaw and kind of follow again all the way around. And then what I do when everything is done, before I actually pour on these, I take some sandpaper and I sand the edges to smooth them out a little bit so that they're not so porous. And I spray paint the surface with a paint and primer. You could also gesso. It just makes it a little bit easier. MDF is not as porous as like regular wood, but it makes it easier so you don't have the potential for air bubbles. So I usually prime my geodes with Rust-Oleum 2 times paint and primer and flat white. Unless I'm going to do a black base or a dark base, then I might use black. But that's usually what I do. And I usually tape up the back with painter's tape, so that when I finish the geode, if I need to just get the drips off the back, I can just heat up the tape and take it off. That works really nicely for me. It does take a while to tape it up because then you have to X-Acto knife the edges. But again, it's going to save you time on the flip side. Otherwise, you'd have to sand the back, and the back would be a lot messier. And that matters to some people. A messy back doesn't really matter to me, but anyway, it just makes it easier. I will say that following my kind of free form lines with a mechanical pencil was not as easy as the Sharpie, but the Sharpie, of course, shows through the white spray paint. So it was a lot easier to follow those lines though. So yeah, this little peanut looking circle could be its own little geode be a cute little piece of small art. So yeah, hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Let me know. I did this because this was requested by a lot of my viewers after my first geode, but I hope that this is helpful. A video like this was definitely helpful for me when I was trying to figure it out. So yeah, so there you have it. That is roughly that was cut out of a 24-inch piece of MDF. So of course the measurements won't be 24 inches, but that's roughly probably 21, 22 inches. So pretty nice large surface, and it's a nice freeform shape. Thanks for watching. Bye.